coordinators traditionally spend some time as a position coach before they become coordinators. You go from graduate assistant at Clemson to coordinator at SMU. Is there any part of you that wishes you had a little time in between as quarterbacks coach or another position coach before making this jump?
Not really. Before I got to Clemson, I was the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach at a high school for 2 years. And working closely with Coach Morris over the past 3 years, I've done a lot of coordinator type work. Coach Morris, I don't know if it was in his plan all along, but specifically he would have me run meetings at Clemson. That's a lot of people don't know that, but I would run meetings. I'd have a section of a different game plan that I would be up there explaining to the guys, hey, this is what we're going to do. Saturdays before the game, we would have a script tape, and I'd be running that meeting. So Coach Morris had a plan for me all along, I believe, and constantly put me in situations where I would be ready for this. Do I wish I would have gone to a quarterback job first before coordinator? No, not really, because this is the next step. To be a and I thought about that because I actually had a chance to stay at Clemson as the quarterbacks coach and decided to make this jump because, hey, you got a quarterback coach, offensive coordinator. What's the next step? And the next step would be to be a offensive coordinator. So, to me, that it was a done deal when Coach Morris offered me the job. So, not a lot of people do that.
I was going to say, do you know of others who have made this jump, or are you breaking new ground here?
For as far as I know, I don't know of anybody else that's made that jump. And I've had a couple people interview me and ask me the same question, and they said the same thing you just said. And I really don't know if there ever has been, and if there has, great. If there hasn't, great too. I don't really care. I'm just here to do my best and roll my sleeves up and go to work, and that's what I've always done. So.
All right, so now you come to SMU as offensive coordinator. Coach Morris is the head coach, but he obviously came here with a reputation for everything he did as offensive coordinator at Clemson. Mm-hmm. How much will you be actually coordinating the offense here? How much will you do any game planning, yes. Any play calling? How will you and Coach Morris split the job?
We've always worked closely together, even for the 3 years. Well, I'll say this. The first year, Coach Morris really didn't know me and really trust me a whole lot. But over that first year, we developed a really close relationship, and where he trusted me a lot to do a lot of the work, like I was saying, to be a coordinator. So during the games, I was in the box for 3 years and would be Coach Morris's eye from the sky, essentially. And we've always worked closely where if I said, hey, Coach, this play would work, Coach would run it. And if it worked, it was good. Sometimes it didn't work, but, whatever. But for the most part, we've worked really closely together for 3 years, and that's what in the discussions me and Coach have had. He's going to let me have it for the most part, but we're gonna work closely together in terms of calling plays on Saturday. And that's what we've always done, so there won't be any change there. So
you are, I would guess, the youngest guy on the staff, or certainly one of them.
Yeah, youngest on the staff, yeah.
Does that make it a little weird when you're running a meeting of offensive coaches?
No, we have a great group of guys, and guys that, I know have my back, I got their back, no matter what. We talk about that all the time. We're a close family in there. We have a great time just cutting up, but when it's time to get work done, we get work done, and we stay on task a lot. It's been really good here in Dallas to just stay on task and get a lot of work done quickly. And for instance, in the spring, we were 7 days ahead for the whole spring. We were so far ahead because we had to be, because we had a lot of high school coaches coming in and wanting to talk to us. But we stayed ahead because we just stayed on task, but we work really well together, and we gel all the time. We like hanging out with each other. So it's been a great deal.
You mentioned you had a chance to stay at Clemson as the quarterbacks coach. How hard did Dabo Swinney try to talk you into staying, and how much did Coach Morris have to, I guess, recruit you to come with him to Dallas?
Yeah, Coach Swinney, it was kind of a weird story, but kind of weird how it happened. I had no idea Coach Swinney was going to try to keep me. Coach Morris said he knew he was going to try to keep me. But all along, I knew I was going to go with Coach Morris. Coach Swinney tried really hard. He tried really hard. Made a lot of phone calls when this whole thing was going down to try to keep me. Talking with Deshaun and trying to keep me to staying Coach Deshaun was tough, but all along I knew Coach Morris needed me to go with him, and he needed me to help him, and I love Coach Sweeney. Coach Sweeney gave me my first opportunity, and could never thank him enough. Me and Coach Morris, just because he was the coordinator and I was around him a lot more, I think we developed a little bit more of a relationship over the 3 years. And I knew when Coach Morris called me and told me, hey, let's go, I was on board. So.
You mentioned Deshaun Watson, quarterback at Clemson. In addition to leaving Clemson, which is a very good football program, you've won a lot of games in recent years, was it hard to leave him specifically? He's on a lot of award watch lists. He's considered one of the best quarterbacks in the nation. Was it tough to walk away and not see him through the rest of his career, considering how much you have invested in him?
It was tough to walk away from Deshaun as a young man, and he's a great kid. And just to be around him every day was something special. Not only from a football standpoint, obviously everybody knows that about Deshaun, but Deshaun is a special kid that doesn't come around a lot. So obviously he's a great football player, but Deshaun's a great kid, and that was the toughest thing, is not knowing who was here, and to leave a guy like that behind was tough, but we got great quarterbacks here. I mean, Matt Davis is something special. He's Taj. When you talk about Taj Boyd, we'll go back to Clemson for a second. You talk about Taj Boyd. Everybody loved Taj. Everybody. And Matt Davis is the same way. Everybody loves Matt Davis on this football team, and he's got a just a sense and aura about him that is just unbelievable, and everybody looks up to him. We got Daryl Colbert, a great kid from Houston, another kid that everybody looks up to. Jordan Seaver, everybody looks up to him. I mean, we got a great group of guys. Ben Hicks, the freshman, he's come in and kind of just, everybody kind of just flocks to him. He's got that it factor, just like all those other guys. So, yes, it was tough to leave Deshaun, but I'm really happy with what we got here and what I have to work with on a day-to-day basis. There's 4 great kids that are just unbelievable to work with, and then not to mention Garrett Kirstich. You know, he didn't go through spring because he was hurt, but you talk about an unbelievable story and a great kid as well. I mean, so I couldn't be a happier quarterback coach. I'll tell you that. So,
is it hard to take over a new group of quarterbacks and not look for the next Deshaun Watson and instead focus on what can I do with Matt Davis or Daryl Colbert or Jordan Seaver, but to not compare him to the guy you had before?
You know, not really. There's been no comparison with Deshaun. I mean, just these guys are new. You know, they're new to our system. We had to go back kind of like to day one with Taj Boyd, and just teach them the system, and that's what we've done. We haven't tried to compare them to what we had at Clemson or what we had this, but from a standpoint of just, hey, these guys are our guys, and this is what we're gonna go win with. These guys are gonna go battle for us, and that's all we really focused on.
To those who watched spring practice, Matt took, I guess, every first team snap. Is it going to be coach speak where you say that every job is open in August, or is it safe to say that all the others are competing to back up Matt?
No, you know, Matt didn't take all the first team reps. There was times where we had Daryl in there. There was times we had Ben in there. Just here and there, we kind of spot that up. But right now, I don't want to answer that question because Baylor might be watching, but yes, it is an open competition, and that's the best thing about the quarterback position is if you can make it a competition, that's only going to make the starter better. And if every day he knows he's got to come to work to earn a job and to prove himself, that's only going to make those guys better. So yeah, it's all open. I mean, it really is.
You played at Middle Tennessee State.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of player were you?
What kind of player was I?
Yeah, did you ever get compared to others, or just what kind of style were you on the field?
That's a good question. I was a running gunning guy. I mean, I ran a lot in high school. I probably ran a 4.5. You know, came to college, tore my ACL my second year, so that kind of set me back a little bit. But we had a really good system. We were spread. Actually learned a lot of Coach Spurrier's offense to start with. And then I had a really good, when I first got there for 2 years, I had a really good quarterback coach and Coach Alex Robbins that was unbelievable with X's and O's and getting on the board. And he was a guy that was very respected in the NFL community as a guy that was very intellectual and knew what he was talking about with protections and everything in terms of football mechanics. Quarterback mechanics, and just knowing X's and O's. So that taught me a whole lot. But he had to corral me a little bit because not really. I don't want to compare myself to Brett Favre. Obviously, he was one of the best that's ever played. But I wasn't afraid to to thread the needle a couple times, and sometimes that got me in trouble. But I just liked to play, and I was a running / dual threat, I guess you would call it now, quarterback.
Do any of the current guys on the SMU roster remind you of yourself?
Yeah. There's one that does. Yeah. So, yep. I don't want to say who.
You're not going to go to the. All right.
Yeah.
In this series of interviews that I've done with the coaches, I've asked several of them sort of what the first steps are when you take over a new group of guys on a team that you've never coached before. Quarterback, some people have said, is the toughest position in sports, the most important position. Obviously, you have an awful lot to teach your guys. So when you got in the room for the first time with your quarterbacks, what are the first steps that you took as you started to teach these guys your system and what you expect of them?
Well, they had to learn a whole different system. June Jones is a great X's and O's coach and knows really a lot of good offense. And we had to teach them our system. We had to kind of take an eraser and erase their mind and say, hey man, everything y'all have learned in the past, just try to block it all out. That was the main thing, is just, this is going to be something that is unlike anything else you've ever learned. So you need to come in with a fresh mind. And to be honest with you, those guys picked it up so fast. I mean, Matt Davis, he was just on it. Darryl was on it. Ben came in, graduated early, and was on it. So for the majority for those guys, they did a really good job picking it up. But I'm sure Coach Morris has said, as everybody's heard, that the biggest thing you got to change is the culture. We had to change the culture big time. There's a lot of different things we had to change with this program, and it started in the weight room with hiring Tremaine Carroll. Coach True he's done an unbelievable job trying to keep him a secret, because we don't need him leaving here and getting a bigger job. But he has done an unbelievable job with those guys, just training them, from conditioning to the strength conditioning part. I mean, just from the strength part, whatever it is down there, from discipline, he's done an unbelievable job. Those guys actually have a lot of swag now. When you walk in the weight room, those guys are dancing, they're having a good time, they feel good about themselves, they have a lot of confidence, and that's where it all started, with changing the culture. And then Coach Morris he's come in and he's preached family, he's preached all of our cultural traits, accountability, he's preached integrity, family, energy, work ethic, confidence, all those things. He's preached to those guys, and it's been something that all of our players have bought into, and they've done a really good job with.
There are coaches really in a lot of different sports who seem to collect players that resemble each other. There are certain traits in players that always seem to end up playing for specific coaches. With quarterbacks, some guys like a quarterback who can run all over the place. Somebody wants some like a big tall kid who can throw it 60 yards on a rope. Mm-hmm. What characteristics do you want in your quarterback, either the guys you have now or even in future years as you go out and recruit future quarterbacks?
I want a guy that loves football. I want a guy that is eat up with football. He can't watch enough film. He's smart. He's intellectual. Yeah, obviously we want a dual threat guy. We want a guy that can run and throw and be accurate thrower, not just be able to throw a football, but to be accurate where he's going to throw the ball. But I think the biggest thing with a quarterback, and you look at guys like Peyton Manning, Peyton Manning is where he is today because he's eat up with football. He loves football. He can't watch enough of it, and he watches film constantly. Just talking with guys that I played with that had an opportunity to go into camp with guys like Peyton Manning, and just to hear how many hours he puts in watching film, that's why he is who he is. Now, Peyton Manning's not an unbelievable athlete, but he can throw a football and be pinpoint accurate with it, and he's very smart. So that's my biggest thing and we have a couple guys on our team. Some need to learn that, but we have a couple guys here that are eat up with football, and all they can do is watch football. I'm the kind of guy that I can be up here all day watching film, game planning, whatever it is. And on Monday nights, I'm going to go home and I'm going to have Monday Night Football recorded. Whenever I get home, I'm going to watch it. And it is what it is. That's what I do. And some of the coaches at Clemson used to always rag me about it. Hey, man, we do football all day. You go home and watch the game? Because I would come back in the next day and say, hey, did y'all see the Colts doing this? Or did y'all see the Packers doing this? Or whatever it might be. And I was like, yeah, dude. I went home and watched the whole game. I had the surround sound all the way up where I could hear the quarterback calls and I could hear the linemen making their calls. And that's just what I do. So that's what I think a quarterback has to be. I think a quarterback has to love football and watch and study. And why are they doing this? Well, they're doing that because the defense is giving them this. So stuff like that I think is very important for a quarterback to have.
The guys that you inherited, do you get the sense that they have that desire, that hunger, that love of the sport that you find in yourself?
Absolutely. Those guys are doing a pretty good job. They got to watch a little bit more film, and I'm going to get on them about that. But they're learning. They're slowly learning, like I'm learning them. But a couple of them have done a very nice job of coming up here. They'll get in my office. They'll turn the tape on, and they'll watch Baylor. They'll watch Clemson cut-ups to learn the system. So a couple of them have done a really good job, but for the majority of the time, they've been up here watching.
You obviously know this offense inside and out. Coach Morris knows this offense inside and out. And your guys have 15 practices under their belt and, lots of hours sitting here talking with you and in the meeting rooms. But do you and Coach Morris have to simplify your system as you go into the first year with a new team?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we did in the spring. We really focused in the spring. One of our goals this spring was let's get our base system in to where we could build on it if our guys picked it up. And they did. For the majority of the guys that were on the team, they picked it up pretty quickly, actually. And I'll take that back. The first couple of days their head was spinning. But that's good. That was a good thing for us because we wanted to make it spin. We wanted to see how they would do the first few days, and we had a couple coaches that were spinning. But that's good because that's what we had every year at Clemson. I mean, every year at Clemson we had the same thing. So yes, we did keep it in the spring to getting our base system in. It was kind of frustrating at times because our defense was giving us certain things that we know that we would have had something ready to go to defeat that, but it was just bite the bullet and let's get our base system in. Might not look great, but our guys are going to know our base offense when we come out of spring, and they're going to know how to execute it at a high level, and they did a good job of that. Now going on fast forward to the spring, I'm sorry, to the fall. We're gonna put it on these guys pretty good, and we'll see how it goes in fall camp. We're gonna try to get everything in spring installed in the first 3 or 4 days. So these guys are gonna have to be on their P's and Q's and know what we're talking about for certain things, and then we gotta be ready when we go against Baylor. We're gonna have our tools in the toolbox. We can't go in there without any tools, and so we're gonna challenge our guys pretty hard the first couple of days, see how well they do with it.
Coming out of spring, did anybody, either in terms of their performance on the field or their ability to absorb the offense or even in a leadership role, did anyone surprise you at all?
Yeah, there's a couple, and my favorite, and there's no secret here, my favorite group in the whole offense, being an ex-quarterback, is the offensive line. And there was a couple guys up front that really surprised me. I'm not talking about from a football standpoint, moving around and making blocks and such stuff like that, but from a leadership standpoint, because I hadn't seen any of those guys play. I didn't watch any film from last year, didn't want to cloudy our mind from that, and so we didn't watch any of them from a football standpoint, but from a leadership standpoint, guys like William Barnes stood out, just being a leader, just always getting the guys going, getting us in the right place. Very smart kid. Taylor Secchi, same thing, getting us lined up, being a leader, getting the guys going when they need to get going. McCarty was just very quiet, didn't say a whole lot, but just did his job and led by example. So there's guys up front that really surprised me from that aspect. A couple of guys that we had to get going a little bit. They had to change their body. And that's where Coach True came in, and I couldn't be prouder of those guys. I mean, Chris Weeks lost 30-something pounds, and he's changed his body completely. And I told him, and I'll say this to everybody, I told Chris, hey, dude, you were the worst body-looking guy I'd ever seen. And, dude, I'm so proud of you because you've changed. You've changed your body. You've bought into what we do. You've met with the nutritionist that we had just hired. And, dude, he's taken this summer and changed his body. He weighs 290 right now. When we came, I think he was 330 something. And so guys like that have made me really proud. Taylor Wright is another one. He changed his body. So we'll hope that he can help us out this year because he's done the same thing. We've had guys lose 5%, 6% body fat. I mean, it's been unbelievable from an offensive line standpoint. Guys that stood out in the spring to me were guys that we can't afford to lose guys like Prescott Line. I mean, Prescott is going to give you all he's got. He knows the system, and he'll study the system as much as he needs to get it. You got Cortland Sutton, obviously, just did a really good job in the spring for us as a leader and as a football player. There's other guys that I'm not thinking of right now. Jeremiah Gaines is another one. I mean, you can't say nothing about Jeremiah Gaines. I mean, he's unbelievable leader on and off the field. I mean, to hear the stories of him and why he won the PAT award for us is because he just hearing stories from professors across the campus, just random people seeing him help a special needs young lady across campus. I mean, just stuff like that don't get portrayed in the media all the time. But you see guys like I just learned this yesterday. Deion Sanders Jr. He has a well-off forever deal, and I didn't know what that meant, but he's using that as a platform to help other people. So all that stuff, man, it gives me chill bumps. It gives me goosebumps to see what our guys are doing off the field as well as on the field.
You mentioned Prescott Line. At the end of spring, you and Coach Morris both raved about him and talked about how you could move him all around into different spots, running back, fullback, H-back, maybe shove him out wide in certain packages. Considering it's, like for everybody else, it's his first year in this system, do you worry about overloading him and stretching him too thin?
No. Prescott is a football player, and he's smart, man. He's smart. He knows if you just give him a baseline rule, I mean, he gets it. And we do have to be careful moving around too much, but again, he's a smart football player, and he knows where to line up.
When people look at this offense that you and Coach Morris ran at Clemson, they see these vertical passes flying all over the field, and they talk about it as a pass-first offense. Others describe it as a power-running offense. How do you describe this system?
We have to be physical, absolutely. We have to be a physical, downhill running football team. Yeah, we do throw the ball all over the field. We'll take shots. We won't take 3 shots a quarter. We've talked about that. But we have to have a downhill running physical mentality about us. That's the first and foremost thing, because everybody knows if you get one-dimensional, you're not going to have very much success. So to be what we want to be, we first have to be a downhill physical football team that'll come right at you. And once you have that, then everything else will open up. All the different holes in the defense open up when you can run the football. So safeties get down there and try to make plays in the run game. That's when you can hit them over the top of the big play.
Every coach, every player, every fan wants to win every game. But stopping short of going 12-0, how would you define your first year at SMU as a success? What do you need to see from your offense?
Our goal as SMU football team is to go to a bowl game this year, and we want to go to a bowl game and win a bowl game. That's our first and foremost. Year one, we think, being the 1-11, the last year's, kind of where we ended the season last year. We think that a bowl game and winning a bowl game would be a great goal for us this year to accomplish. And then we feel like the next year we want to get, be a powerhouse in this conference. And then after that, we want to be a national team that's top 25 team every year. We're winning 10, 11 games every season. So that's our ultimate goal. from us as an offensive standpoint. Every goal we had at Clemson, last year, 4th year in the system, we wanted to lead the country in a lot of offensive statistics. This year, we feel like to give us a really good chance of reaching our goal, if we're top 3 in the conference, in offense, we feel like we'll have a really good chance of being up there as a top team in this conference and having a chance to win it this year.
As a graduate assistant at Clemson, you mentioned you worked very closely with Coach Morris as the offensive coordinator. Now you're the coordinator, he's the head coach, and admittedly you haven't coached a game yet, but you've had 6 months running around SMU, coaching practices. Is he any different now that he's the head coach rather than the coordinator? Do you see any differences in his personality or
No.
your relationship any different?
No. Coach Morris is what you see, man. He is genuine. He hasn't changed a lick. Now, the only thing that's changed about him is he's a lot more busy. He's a lot busier. He's got a lot more stuff on his plate. Miss Terry's always grabbing him out of our room to go do this or go do that, all the head coaching responsibilities that you have. So I think Coach Morris just put a lot on me and trusts me a whole lot that when he's gone that I can get all the stuff that we need to have done. And so he as a person, no, hasn't changed a bit. He's still a good old country boy from Texas, and that'll never change. He's a very genuine guy, a guy that I trust. To be honest with you, I think now that I am the coordinator, I guess maybe our relationship's a little bit closer, but that's hard to say because we had a really good relationship at Clemson too. So I think now we talk a little bit more, just so we can all be on the same page on a lot of different things. But the only thing that's changed with him is just how busy he is all the time.
With all the increased demands on his time and energy, do you worry about a reduction in the amount of time you get to spend with him, asking questions, picking his brain?
No, because if I ever need something, he's gonna drop what he's doing and help me out. So no, I'm not ever worried about that. Because again, if I need something, he knows if I call him, I need something, and during the day I would say, but no, I don't worry about that. Plus we have a really good staff, man. I'm telling you, Coach Fry, unbelievable ball coach. Played in the NFL. He knows what he's doing, and just so excited to have Coach Fry join us. Coach Stepp, he was with Coach Morris as well before I got to Clemson. He's had I think 4 or 5 all-conference receivers in 3 years that he's been at App. So he knows what he's doing. Guys had a very, very good relationship with Coach Stepp. Very excited to have him. And then Coach Mathis, not last but not least, by no means, Coach Mathis does an unbelievable job. He's still trying to learn the system. Obviously year 1, I didn't have a clue in the system. That's what we always have to tell Coach Mathis, hey man, I had no clue when the first year was going on. I had to learn and learn and learn. And Coach Mathis is a perfectionist, and he wants to know it all right now. He wants to know everything I know right now. But that's what makes him a good coach. He's very, he's a go-getter, and he wants to know everything right now, and he wants to be the best in the country every single day. And the guys love him, and not to mention he's doing an unbelievable job in recruiting. Just knowing the state, knowing the coaches that are around here. Very excited to have him. Then from a defensive-minded guy that we've hired on the offensive side is our offensive analyst, Coach Smith. Anybody that works for Brent Venables, I have a lot of respect for. Brent works his guys a lot, and with that being said, Brent is what I look at as I respect Coach Venables more than a lot of coaches in this whole country because he knows what he's doing. He is unbelievable. So anybody that worked for Coach Venables, I have a lot of respect for, and Mark's done an unbelievable job from a defensive minded standpoint in our offensive room. Hey, the defense right here is trying to get you to do this. So it always helps to have that kind of mind in your room. And then from a tight end standpoint, what we call our 3 backs, Coach Donnie is I had to call him and tell him, hey dude, after the end of spring, hey man, you did an unbelievable job. You did way better than I thought you would do. Seriously. And that's not a knock on Coach Mack, but he did. He literally And he did so good. I mean, I was so proud of him that I called and told him I was proud of him. And so he does a great job. He has a lot on his plate being a GA and being the tight ends coach. But again, he did a great job in spring of all that. Coach Gardner helping Coach Fry. I mean, Coach Gardner was with Oklahoma State. He had a shot in the league, and he knows his stuff as well. Worked under some very good offensive line-minded coach, and we're excited to have him. We have a lot of student assistants, student help that they do a great job. So again, it makes it all easy when you got guys working for you that know what they're doing and that are task oriented. So.